Welcome to the Find Your Influence podcast with Anton and Kristina, where we unpack all things influence and we help leaders particularly find their influence by talking to amazing humans and finding out what influence means to them, who they've been influenced by and who they have influenced. And this podcast episode, proudly sponsored by the Guinea Group of companies. The Guinea Group helps leaders upgrade, upskill, uplift their teams and their influence. Well, here we are. Welcome to the Find Your Influence podcast with the Anton Guinea, where we have amazing chats about leaders and influence and how leaders can be more influential as leaders. And we have some great chats. And one of those chats, lucky enough today to have Kristina Katsanevas, who happens to be from the same town that I am in, Gladstone, Queensland, regional start to life for Kristina. But now Kristina is a Brisbane-based business and tech transformational leader, a global speaker. I've heard Kristina speak on stage, and managing director of KPIs Advisory. Kristina is known for helping founders and leaders scale their team's operations, strengthen their culture, and modernize their systems. And I love that. So that the organization can grow sustainably. And what I love about this is become exit ready. So if you're an entrepreneur out there looking for an exit strategy, Kristina Katsanevas is your person. With a strong emphasis on practical adoption and measurable delivery outcomes, Kristina works with organizations and their leaders to help them develop their exit strategy, as well as Kristina has great conversations on Kristina's podcast as well, Transforming the Game. Kristina, was that the right name for that podcast?
It is Transforming the Game. Well, what an intro. Thank you, Anton. I needed you to take a breath for me. Thank you.
And what I love, Kristina, like when I look at your story, you know, I see this great corporate background, then I see some consulting, but now I see this like podcasting to the stars. Talk us through that. What's that like?
So yes, I have started my podcast and I have just really thrived off it, really. And I have been fortunate enough to interview and speak with some really high level A-list celebrities and just people killing it in their craft. And it's been exciting to hear the stories of people who have just been excelling in their career in their industry and just in life, and what their personal journeys have been and just how to pay it forward, so that I always hope with my listeners that they get to take a little piece of it away and can really resonate with it and go, oh yeah, I could do that in my life, or oh yeah, I could do that. If they could do it, I could do it too. So, and it's just been amazing.
Oh, and who's the funkiest, just for everyone out there, who's the funkiest celeb you've had on?
Well, I did get to interview Sheen recently about his book. So that was really exciting. And he's actually not what most of the media and everyone makes out. They like to make a joke of him. And he's really what I felt like is he's just putting it all out there. He's like, this is me. This is life. I've made a lot of mistakes. I'm not defined by my mistakes. And this is what I'm doing now. Like it, lump it. But I'm not going to apologize anymore. So he was cool. He was really cool, actually. I have done actually a really good one was Brian Smith. Now, people might not know the name, but I bet you they've worn his footwear. So he is the one of the founders of bringing UGG, the brand, to life. So he took that to America and it's now $1 billion brand, but just his vision. And he's a very cool cat. If you think Byron Bay surfer sort of feel with like the Californian lifestyle in the 70s and 80s, that is Brian.
Right. Gee. And what was Brian's message, Kristina? What did you take away from a conversation from someone that started $1 billion brand?
He was like, pretty much you need to have patience. You cannot do it overnight. You need to go through the life cycle of a brand, which is like he talks about like babies can't run. So you've got to take it on its journey, get it in the hands of the people that you want to buy it. And he was really big actually on those. And I get it when I talk about him, these goosebumps feelings. So that's what he literally got out of the surf one day, put on his Uggs from Australia and went, oh my God, these aren't in Australia, aren't in America. This is going to be $1 million idea back then. And what he didn't realize was that Americans did not understand sheepskin. They did not understand putting it on your feet. So it wasn't like boom, and he's rich. He did the hard yards and was resilient and persistent for years and years and years and years until he just built so much trust in the brand because he was all about quality that, it took off.
Wow. Hey, thanks for sharing. Great story. Great story.
Yeah.
And I love how you've positioned yourself as a podcaster to the stars. But you're also this cool business consultant, Kristina. And let's talk influence for a moment. What does the word, and you're potentially an influencer.
Oh,
Not,
not quite, but yes.
I know a lot of people like that term and go, but I think we all are in some way, shape, or form, even if we're not in social media. I think we influence others in some way, shape, or form. What does the word influence mean to you, Kristina Katsanevas?
Oh, the art of influence. It is a skill that I believe anyone can learn if they want to. I believe it's about being able to have people say yes to you more often. It's about having the right energy when you walk into the room that people go, who is that person? I want to meet them. It's about managing conflicts easier. Um, it's about just feeling that confidence that people want to influence any situation, that you want to make better decisions. If you're a good influencer, you make better decisions, you're managing conflict. It's all of these things. And I truly believe that anyone can learn it if they want to.
Wow. And I think you're right. I think influence is a learnable skill. A little bit like leadership, which we'll start the conversation with influence and we'll finish it with leadership, because I think a lot of the skills of an influencer sort of transpose over into leadership as well. Before
Leaders are very influential people. They're not a good leader if they're not influential, like, period. They're like a manager maybe, but they are not a good leader or a leader. They don't get that title if they're not influential.
Perfect. Well said. Well said. Key leadership skill. Now, Kristina, talking about influence, you've had a long corporate journey as well. Who and might be mum and dad, who maybe professionally, who's had the most influence on your life where you've ended up at the moment?
Who's had the most influence on my life? Corporate. Okay, so I'm going to go back. I'm going to go back far. When I was finishing university, I got an internship. Now, I was looking for the biggest, best company in sport management, actually, and I landed one at the Confederation of Australian Sport. Now, that was the peak body for sport. The manager, the director, the CEO there, her name was Sarah. She was, for me, like, for lack of a better word, a total baller. She was running the peak of sport in a quite a male dominated industry. She taught me the ways of how to negotiate and just gave me so much rope. She was the type of person when said, here, go run the National Sport Awards, and trusted me with it, right? And I'm creating the biggest sport awards Australia's seen as my internship, which obviously she was overseeing in a way that I didn't feel micromanaged. And it was just, she really is a pinnacle for me. And then another person I'd probably want to shout out to is when I was working actually in my cycling days at the Cycling Queensland, I had a phone call from a gentleman. I'm going to tell you this story because I think it's the power of saying yes sometimes. So, and I'm going to say it quickly, but I was running a national or a state's sporting event. I got a phone call the day before the event. Entries had closed days before. I get a phone call, and this gentleman is like, hi, I'd like an entry. Now, two things. Definitely closed. It causes me a lot of extra work to actually have to do that. But it's only work for me. So it's just stuff I needed to do to change the gradings, put them in, blah, 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 blah. So I could have said no and I was well within my rights, or I say yes. I said yes. Next part of the sliding doors moment was this gentleman I said, I need your email. Give me your email and your grade. I will sort it all for you. He starts to, now I could have got his from the database. I didn't. He said, I'll give you this email, and then stops and goes, actually, I'll give you my work email. Gives me his work email. It was Phil Stoneman at ingworld.com. I had been trying to get into this company since I started at university. I was obsessed with this company. Now, if I hadn't said yes, and if I hadn't, and if he hadn't given me that work email, Anton, I lost my mind because I'd been trying to get into this company so long. I literally nearly dropped the phone and I said, oh my gosh, I was so green in networking, but I said, oh my gosh, what do you do? And he's like, I'm the director. Then I really nearly lost my mind. I said, will you have coffee with me? Straight out. I said, I've been obsessed. I said, I need to meet you. And he said yes. So again, if I hadn't have said yes, and if he hadn't have said yes, he said yes. He met with me. We had coffee. We ended up creating the closest relationship. He was my mentor in business for so long. And now it's tipped the scales where he comes to me for advice and we're like the closest of friends 20 plus years later. It was just, and so he's another mentor, like, and just role model from the start, but now we're friends and equals and it's great. But the power of saying yes to when it comes to leadership, networking, career.
Wow. Beautiful story. I love it. I love it. And I agree with the power of saying yes. And I think also there's a little bit of manifestation in that too, Kristina. You know, you put it out to the universe and all of a sudden it sort of comes back in some way.
Yeah.
Well,
Yes. Yeah. Well, absolutely.
great stuff. So now let's very quickly, and you've probably given me the answer to this. No, you haven't. Who are you most proud of? So have you got a client maybe, or have you got a someone in your team or someone in your life who you, Kristina, have managed to sort of be a really big influence on?
Yes, I've got two that I might suggest here because they're a bit different. So one in the career corporate sense is I had this young guy who was so smart, so intelligent, worked so hard, and I would call him one of my A players in my team. He was contracting, however, and this was a few years ago. He was contracting, and I didn't have enough influence in the company to get him a permanent role, but I was his advocate, but he wasn't being looked at in the company he was in. So he had worked so hard, he'd gone above and beyond. We worked really well. And then I ended up giving him enough, if not outside mentorship, that to actually, even though it was going to devastate me and my team, to go out and get another job where he was paid his worth and could get in a position where he could thrive because I could see his potential and I knew that my position, and he was so loyal to me, he would have just stayed with me, but I could not get him the exposure I felt he deserved. And so I go and talked with him until I could get him to find a position where he deserved and the money he deserved, and gave him all the accolades he needed because he deserved to shine and I couldn't break a ceiling in where I was at to get him there. So, and he did. He got a job. He was devastated to leave. And I said, this is the right thing. And I said, and there will be a day and time in the future where I have the right position for you in the right role, and I will be taking you back 100%. But so he's one I was particularly proud of. And then on a totally different side of things, I actually do mentoring for high school kids with a program called Raise. And it's a really beautiful program. And I'd recommend anyone who wants to pay it forward and has a unique connection, particularly with teenagers, to have a look at the program. Anyway, I'm not affiliated with them. I just think it's a good thing. But I had a Raise, Raise, Raise. So it's a, yeah. So I was mentoring a young girl in that a couple of years ago, and uh, she was in a really hard, dark place. But by the end of I won't go into any details, but by the end of the program, this young woman was thriving. I got the most beautiful card and message about how I saved her lives and that she was different. She was going to get into project management just to be like me, but hopefully she pivots to do what she actually probably finds. But it's just more that she found a purpose, and all I did was sit and listen and not judge. They just needed a safe space to feel that, to just feel heard, seen, and appreciated, which is what anyone needs in life. If anyone in your team as well, it's the same thing. But it really changed it. And just getting those messages and that letter and how it had really impacted her life. And then a couple of years later, I ran into her at the shopping center, and again, she thanked me and said, you know, you saved me, and I'm doing so well at school and X, Y, and Z. And I was like, oh my gosh. So that one I'm proud of.
Oh, As you should be. Congrats, congrats. Just very quickly for all our listeners out there, tell us about the Raise program, Kristina, and what drew you to that. When you said you got a passion for teenagers, is that because you've got teenagers yourself, or like what drew you to it?
To be honest, it was the reason I found it wasn't from me looking. I was looking to volunteer somewhere, and the company I was working for back in the day, they have a volunteer program, and Raise had partnered with them as one of the options. And I've always seemed to have a good relationship with, you know, the teenage kids. Sometimes I seem to be able to resonate with them, or they seem to connect with me. Maybe because I'm no BS. So I'm not trying to parent them. I'm not trying to like tell them no, no, no. You know, if they're going to do stupid shit, you're going to do stupid shit. I'm like, do it with friends. Like I'm not gonna tell them. I'm gonna say, you know, you've got to have your wits about you. But I don't know about you. You tell me no as a kid, I'd go and double down and do it. So it's gotta know what works. But Raise is about they're connected with high schools around Australia, and you've got to commit with the 6 months. What they do is you go in and they actually partner you up with a child that they have nominated from the school. They're usually between 13 and 14, and they are struggling in a few different ways. They might be having a really hard time at home. They might be having a really hard time at school. They might be having a really hard time with identity. They might be getting bullied. They might just be sad. There's a lot of different reasons why they might be in the program. And it's just to give the children, as I said, an external person that has no agenda, is not psychologists, or they do get counseling training. So then that you are just there to help these kids hopefully get through to them. And you go through this whole program to show them that their world, that this bubble that they're living in is not the be all and end all, that there's more to life. And so when kids are bullying you, or if things are really hard at home, or that there's someone that believes in you, there's someone that trusts you, that you can trust, there's someone you can talk to, because sometimes it's about they don't want to talk to a teacher, they want to stay cool with their friends, and they can't, and they might have a trouble at home. So if you build enough trust, then the kids open up. When kids open up and feel supported, they thrive, and they make their own right decisions in the end. It's not about you telling them what to do. It's about guiding them to find their way.
Wow. And you started this conversation, Kristina, and you threw these great three words in: pay it forward. And I feel like that's something you lean into, and I feel like, volunteering is paying it forward, really.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
giving when no one can give back.
yeah, it's I do believe if everyone paid it a little bit forward and just showed a little bit of kindness, sometimes that the world would be a better place. But it's finding your passion, your skill set of what you do, and then, you know, helping people in a way. Or like they say a lot, actually, if there's an area maybe you want to improve and you don't know how to improve, if you go and help someone else in that area, you'll end up helping yourself too. Because I know a lot of people, sometimes they're not sure, I'm not good enough, or they've got all these negative thoughts in their head. But if you just go and put that energy into helping someone else make new friends, or helping someone else work out their finance, or helping someone else become more social, or work their way in the corporate world, then in turn it elevates you as well.
That's powerful. It's like you teach it to learn it to a degree.
Yeah, yeah. And you end up changing energy frequencies, and up you go.
Absolutely. I love that. Sounds a little bit like consulting. Sounds like my early days in consulting. When you weren't really sure, when you get a big corporate, can you come and do this? Absolutely. And then you go, how do I do that? And then you just work it like you used to
Work it out, make it out.
work it. And we have this saying, Christina, it can't be that hard. Someone else has done it.
Can't be that hard.
Yeah.
There's always a way.
That's what it's
Find a better way.
I like
There's
that.
always a
There's always a way. So
Mate, there's always
I love it. So what is it about business that you love? What is it about working with business owners? Like, why does that light you up? Seeing people like get a great exit, or develop their exit strategy, or work on their corporate strategy. What's in that? Where's that come from?
I think it's a little bit of the power of control. So if people are in business and they like the control, it's also about, for me, I'm big on your rocking chair moment. So I think everything I do comes down to the rocking chair moment, if you're in your rocking chair and you're thinking about what you've done in life, what are you going to be thinking of? What are you going to be most proud of? And is it the small stuff you're sweating right now? Absolutely not. I guarantee you it's not. And so with people in business, I'm also very big on not wasting time. Oh my gosh, if you work near me or around me, if you waste my time, if you waste your time, especially if it's on my time, it, it burns me. It burns me. So I'm big on when I see businesses and they're running things and they're so in the weeds or they're just so into their craft. And that's another thing in transforming the game. I love people doing their craft, but they might not have this business sense or the strategy sense where I'm like, you could do what you're doing 11 times faster if we systemize, if we AI, if we tech this, and then you're free and you'll have more time, you'll be happier, you'll be spending more time with your family or friends or doing your hobbies, and not being busy. So many people are busy instead of being like productive.
Agreed. Oh,
I need to get you some pom-poms.
that's right. Yeah, exactly. Cheerleading. No, that's fantastic. 'Cause you're a woman of my own heart because, like, I'm lucky that I've got a Deb, and Deb manages my calendar. My calendar's back to back most days. It's and I just, I'm not myself if my calendar's not full. If I'm not just, I know where I'm going to start the day, and I know where I'm going to finish the day, and I don't get, even yesterday, Kristina, I had a great coaching client, Anton. My calendar, this is what he said. He said, my calendar is a wasteland. And I went,
So he's not productive in his meeting.
oh, that's right. Well, there's no meetings in there. He goes to them, but they're actually not in his calendar. He doesn't use his calendar. He showed me, he said, I look at yours and then I look at mine. I go, mate, let's work on that. Let's work
Like,
on.
does he have, is it a corporate role? Is it a
Yeah,
corporate?
it's an engineering role at an industry in Gladstone.
So does he? Okay, all right. Yeah, well, that's interesting. I mean, I hate meetings for the sake of meetings. So I'm about every meeting out that there's not a quick. What's the point? What are you getting out of it? And if you're in without an objective, I tell he constantly, don't go, cut them. But if he's just rocking up, doesn't even know what meetings he's rocking up to, but you're just
Ah,
doing roundabouts there.
that's right. And the next thing too for me, Kristina, is like if you looked at my calendar, you'll actually see it's a to-do list as well as a meeting prioritizer.
Okay.
So if I've got an hour in between, well, how am I going to, and this is probably a message in time management for people. You need to use your calendar as your to-do list. What are your three priorities for the day? What's the one for you? What's the one for your team? What's one for your business? And they go, you might allow an hour for each one of those or half an hour or whatever, but they should all be in your calendar too to keep you focused on them. I don't know if you're that detailed when it comes to time management, but I know I certainly am.
Yeah. Look, I think people need to work out what works for them when it comes to their to-do list and making sure that they're not wasting time on the busyness or getting distracted by the email notifications pop up and the things that keep coming up and they get distracted by the shiny objects. And if that's a good way, I do know that's a good way for a lot of people that go, right, no, this is my 15 minutes. I was using something similar for lower the lower items on my to-do list that kept getting pushed out and kept getting pushed out, but they were still on my shoulders. And I'm like, if I don't even put in 15 minutes, I will always prioritize the other stuff. But 15 minutes a day or every couple of days, I was actually starting to knock it out finally and then got it out. Otherwise, it was never going to happen. And so, yeah, I find it works for that. Otherwise, the bigger stuff. And then I always have like you say, my three key things. I'm like, what's that signal work? Do it.
Love it.
Just
For all our viewers and listeners, you heard it first here. Kristina Katsanevas. If you want to make it a priority, put it on your calendar, even if it's only 15 minutes. You get to stuff, and you tick off all the little stuff as well. You could have 15 minutes, you could have half an hour. But anyway, I think that's great work from someone who helps businesses systematize, which Kristina does. So, Kristina, as well as all of that stuff, how's AI shaping your life at the moment? How's AI shaping the work that you do and maybe the work you do with business leaders?
Yeah, so I've been working obviously in technology for the past 11, 12 years, and AI has been coming in bigger and bigger and bigger. So I've always been a bit in the AI and space, but for the past few years, we have been going crazy with it. So it really has impacted the way we look at it from a cybersecurity perspective, the way data is saved, managed in all the companies need to get re-looked at. The way it is rolled out and adopted is a very, very big thing. So where people are looking at adopting AI, they need to look at the license costs and everything like that, but they need to look at the adoption cost, because you stick it in your company and no one uses it, then you're wasting your money. And then you need to look at your data. So it is huge. I am seeing the adoption sometimes picked up right and sometimes not. And then people go, well, it's no good. I had a friend just yesterday, they were rolling out Copilot and they're like, it's rubbish. And I said, why is it rubbish? And they're like, oh, it won't do A, B, C, D. And I said, I guarantee you, your data is rubbish. You haven't saved it properly. It doesn't know how to find it because you've got 50 documents that are named the same thing. It's not a freaking magician. And I said, and then you're trying to ask it to do 3, 4 different things. That's an agentic model. You need to get studio over the top. So it's that lack of learning where people just think AI is magic, which AI is pretty awesome, but you need to teach yourself, you need to learn about it, and then you need to get the experts in to actually tell you about it. Because when you give that use case, if that's what you want, I'm like, well, where's the data? What are you using this? And then you need this tool at the top. That's the AI you need with this AI. And they're like, oh, so
I love it.
very important.
You did say earlier in the conversation you were quite direct, which
I don't like wasting time. So I'm like, here is your answer. Off you go.
I love it. So succinctly put, so clearly put. And and so for organisations out there, Kristina, and I think you just probably covered it then. But what's the future of AI in organisations? Is it AI yourself? Is it AI your business? Like where's it sort of where's AI, in what's your prediction working in technology?
Definitely you look at all of the let's start on the basics, because and we both know really good companies that are setting up business AIs where they say they'll IO the stuff and everything. So there's like the JT1 and all of that. There's also all the other big five that are doing things. When it comes to your business and where is it going, I want people to look at your knowledge workers and your admin base, right? So, and what are things that people do that are, let's go on real basics, like not even on the level of the enterprise we're doing, of what's the knowledge workers, the emails, what are the things you click? There's jobs where if you click in a computer, I want to say, so let's give a real basic on booking a restaurant. I'm looking for a restaurant in this location. I needed to check my calendar for time. It can go into the restaurant. It can go and click the booking. It can go in and make the booking, right? There's clicks in a computer. There's no, if you give the right information, the rest of it could be done through clicks in a computer without so that's when people talk about agentics. People hear people say agentics or stuff. That's the agentic part. When it starts to get clever, it can do the clicks in the computer for you. Okay. Then there's AIs that can do that. So that's when they're talking about AI employees. Then you've got the AI employees where they'll want to put your knowledge base into the AI. The learning model starts learning from it. So it's like Anton always answers like this, not like Kristina. He's a lot nicer. Um, and he will, and then it starts to learn your tone, and it'll go, okay. And then it'll see how, like what you do with your responses or things like that. Then it can go templates, and you can put all this into it and it keeps learning. So it knows the templates, the company. That's like the AI yourself. It needs the agentics over the top so that it can start to do it itself. But these aren't magic. They all have to be set up. You need to really start, people. If you have no AI, you need to get it. So go seek a professional. Come reach out to me, reach out to Anton, and we can put you in the direction of companies that are AI businesses, small, medium as well. But you have to get on to AI because it will automate your workloads. And then it's not about taking everyone's jobs away. It's about redistributing them to higher value work. They don't need to do that lower level stuff anymore. You've got them thinking more strategically. You've got them thinking with what's the ROI for the business. You've got them thinking at a different level. And now if their skill set is completely made redundant, then that's when you start to restructure like any business, right? You're bringing in a new machine. You're not going to keep the same person who was doing it manually. You either move them, change them, or you do move them out. But
Love it.
yeah.
Beautifully put. Beautifully put. And where do you think, Kristina, what are you seeing from a leadership perspective? Like a lot of the leaders that I coach are still sort of, well, some of them on the fence, some have adopted, some of them see it as AI or humans, whereas I keep saying we're AIing and humaning. You've got to sort of put them together. What are you seeing from a leadership perspective out there? What's the vibe around businesses, business growth, business adoption of AI?
So I'm big on, because I do a lot of adoption of technology, I'm big on the adoption curve, right? So everything you just said is very real, because you'll have your innovators of the leaders, and we're talking leadership here. Then you're going to have, and that's about 2.5% of leaders out there. The next about 13% are early adopters. So they're not the innovators who have already been tinkering, but they're going to go, yeah, I've heard about this AI, and they're already playing at home a little bit on it. They've probably been on ChatGPT for a while, and they're like, we really think we should get on board. Then you're going to have your majority adopters of leaders. That's your next 30% odd. They are waiting for your early adopter leaders that are within that company, or even their friends, or what they're seeing on LinkedIn or whatever, have said, oh, okay, I see they're trying it. I'm ready to put it into one part of my department or team, right? Let's just play with that. And it's not, and so now you've hit the tipping curve of your adoption model for leaders, if it's within your company. The rest of your leaders then will go, is your late doctors. They're going to go, all right, they're all on it. They're not blowing up. We'll adopt it. And then you've got your laggards. They will never get on board unless they get threatened to get fired or you move them out. There's people who will never adopt AI because they're like, it's not the way I do it. It's not the way it's done. That's not how we do it here. So they'll either have to do it by force or you change them out. So when it comes to that, and then the biggest thing when we were doing I did a big business case on adopting AI into a very big company. And the biggest question I got at the very start, which is starting to change now, was not, we just said, we've just proven we're going to increase productivity by 26%. Prove it. Like we're showing you, I'm pretty confident. Now, let's say we're wrong. The bare minimum was 6%. 6% is still a lot of time saved. So I was pretty sure we'd hit about the 20. We were only going to present them 6%. The leaders were like, but what do they do with their time? So their heads with the leaders needed to be coached, trained on adoption of going, well, what do they do with their time? You now need to change your KPIs. You need to change what metrics you're tracking to, what goals you're tracking to, because your team is about to become 6 to 12, like 20% more productive. You can't just go do everything that much quicker. You need to give them higher targets. You need to change the way you manage and you learn, knowing that they have these tools to execute at a different level.
Wow. Thanks for that. That is off tap. That is such great experience, Kristina. Who would have thought that a leader would say, gee, I wonder what they'll do with their time?
It was more than one.
I tell you, maybe.
And you know what? Maybe that's a fear within themselves going, I've got my bubble and my team's working really well. If you actually make them more productive, do I have to work more? Like, do I have to think more? Because everything's working here now. So again, they're not your leaders that were the early adopters. They're the leaders that are the late going, I don't know, I don't understand this. And they couldn't see past hang on. They're going to just go have more coffee. They're just going to sit down, do the same work. And no, you change that goalpost.
Yeah. Change the roles, responsibilities, and do it consultatively. And all of a sudden, you've got this more productive team. And anyway, I'd love 6% more or 20% more time. Wouldn't we do?
Yes.
Yes. Now, Kristina, just let's start closing out and let's think about this concept of leadership. You've led a lot of people over your life. I'm lucky enough to have a great team. I've led a few teams, particularly in big industry shutdowns and all sorts of different leadership roles. I think for me, leadership is about that example: go the way, know the way, and show the way, or know the way, show the way, go the way. John C. Maxwell, and I think sometimes it's not that simple. What's leadership to you, Kristina? What do you try to embody, or what do you look for in leaders that you work with?
Leaders that I work with, that I look for, they need to have the bigger vision, have the trust of the team, and have people who want to work for them and do the right thing when they're not even in the room. So you've got a good leader when you see the culture around is thriving, when you see that the culture and what people's actions are and their behaviors are when senior leaders aren't in the room. I think that's what makes a really good leader. It's people who want to be around them and learn from them and admire them. And it's people who listen and they sort of don't feel intimidated by them, but they feel a respect and a hierarchy to them as well, so that they have that influence. I think is good.
Whoa, I've never heard anyone articulate it like that. Look at how a team behaves when the leader's not around, and that'll tell you what the leader's like when they are around.
Hands down.
No, mind blown. Wow, I've never thought about it like that, because a lot of the time we say, a good team can function without its leader for a short period of time, or for a long period of time. The leader should have set up a team for success so that they're not, if the leader goes, the team shouldn't crumble, right? But for you to actually say, look at their behavior, and the leader might not be away, they might be around in some capacity, but how does that team behave when they're not being led or forced to behave in a certain way? Because teams are a reflection of their leader, Kristina. And, if that reflection's the right one, wow, can I use that?
Yeah, of course you can.
10%.
10% every time it's mentioned.
That's right.
Like a radio station.
Credit the great business philosopher at Kristina Katsanevas at what was K-Cats?
Oh, that's just the advisory side. K-Cats on. That's just because it's shorter. Like, you can just go to the website, but that's fine.
Cool. Kristina Katsanevas, you have been amazing. Now, Kristina, very, very last question that I always ask our amazing podcast guests. And that question is, would you, pretty please, we'll send you an email after this, could you introduce us to some amazing humans that you think would be a great fit for our Find Your Influence podcast? Pretty please.
Absolutely.
Thank you. You're amazing.
A lot of cool cats.
A lot of cool cats. I love that. Kristina Katsanevas, you are amazing. Thank you so much for joining at short notice. You're a legend. I really appreciate it. You just vibe. So thanks heaps. And I'll see you at the next event, probably.
That was fun.
Thank you for listening or viewing our Find Your Influence podcast with Anton Guinea. Another great chat. Please be one of the 10% of people who follow and subscribe and like our videos, so that you can get more of them and you can hear more of our amazing conversations, the conversations that I get to have and that I get to share.